Hey, we're live. Welcome to the Games Tavern Happy Hour, where a bunch of us nerds get together and talk tabletop gaming news, reviews, and interviews with those in the gaming space. So glad to have you join us tonight. I'm joined by our awesome co-host, Jeff. Jeff, you want to say hello?
Salutations.
Oh, he went the fancy 50-cent word today. So today we have an interview with Matt Fellman, the latest person to join the Games Tavern cast on our short shots, and with a long history in streaming and tabletop games. And as usual, the latest news releases and new releases and discussion on the latest things in tabletop gaming. If this is your first time watching the Games Tavern Happy Hour, welcome. Don't forget to follow us on the Games Tavern on Twitch. It's free and it supports all of us here at the Games Tavern. If you have Amazon Prime, you also get a free Prime gaming subscription, which you can use to show your support to all of us here on the Games Tavern. And Prime Gaming subscribers get access to special sub-only emotes and also access to a special subscriber-only Discord channel. Remember, you can also watch us live here on Twitch, but also all shows are uploaded onto YouTube approximately 48 hours later, so you can catch up on all the interviews and reviews you may have missed. Just a quick shout out there to tabletopaudio.com. Thank you so much for providing the sound effects and music that we play during our show. You can use tabletop audio in your own campaigns by going to tabletopaudio.com and choosing from over 240 awesome music and ambiance tracks, often with alternate versions available for Patreon patrons. Or if you need something custom, you can check out their amazing sound pad and options to create your own custom sound pad for your campaigns. Everything from fantasy, modern, and future sci-fi, they've got ambiances for you. We think so highly of tabletopaudio.com. We're supporters, and we think you should support them too. All right. Let's see here. Jeff, how you doing, man? I haven't seen you for at least a week.
I know. Well, I guess it has been a week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
And that time has flown by.
It has. It certainly has. So do we want to just kick right over to the news?
I think that's a good place to get started.
All right, let's kick right over to the news then.
So, go ahead and get started here with our tabletop news. I think one of the big things to be on the lookout, it's been making its rounds, and we're still pretty far out, but Magpie Games announced this week that they will secured a multi-year licensing agreement with Viacom CBS to produce a tabletop role-playing game set in the world of Nickelodeon's animated series Avatar: The Last Airbender and Avatar: The Legend of Korra. Players will be able to explore the Avatar setting as heroes of the story, taking on many of the antagonists that confronted both Aang and Korra throughout the series. The game's core book is slated for a February 2022 release, with 2 supplements to follow in August of 2022 and February 2023, both filling out the rest of the world with Republic City and the Spirit World. Big news. I think this is going to be great. It's a great world. We haven't really gotten any in-depth like lore background that you would find for an RPG. There's plenty of I've got the entire comic series over on my shelf.
If you haven't seen The Last Airbender, any of the series, you definitely should. And if you haven't read the comic books, you definitely should. It's one of the most well-developed fantasy worlds out there, and to see a game come out for it is probably going to be nothing less than spectacular.
And Magpie's got a good reputation, at least. So
a very good one.
So definitely a good pick by Viacom. But what's their other RPGs that they've really handled?
Magpie?
Yeah.
Well, let's pull them up and we'll name them all. Why not? We'll give Magpie some extra loving today.
It's just I usually when I think Magpie, I'm thinking board games, not role playing games. So it's a bit different, I think.
Well, let's see here. There's Root, which has been around for a while. Masks, A New Generation. It's a superhero kind of thing.
Okay. I know Masks.
Wizard Kitten card games. Urban Shadows, which we talked about their Kickstarter before it came out.
Yep.
There's Ash Cans, Bluebeard's Bride. That came out Pride. I know that sounded right. And of course, a personal favorite for me, Zombie World. And then there's another one called Cartel. Chaos Worlds, Epilion. There's just all sorts of games they've got. And then they've got some other classics as well, but those are the quick list for Magpie Games. So.
Definitely, I guess Root and Masks definitely are two that I recognize at least. So
absolutely.
I like, yes, the Fire Nation. And that will be the other thing for me, is going to be the ability to have other elements, be able to be that earthbender, be able to basically recreate your favorite characters, not just be the avatar. Because if everyone's the avatar, then is anyone really special?
Yeah. I mean, like all the bending is going to be amazing. I can tell you that probably my daughters will love this one, because they really did get into this when they were really young, and to see them maybe play this when they get older, it would be quite spectacular. I know there was one point where when the cartoon was out, how like they did all the scenes of them doing their bending and stuff like that, and when the end came out, you'd see all these scenes of them doing this stuff. My daughters would get up and then make the motions of doing this stuff. And there was one particular show where my oldest daughter got up and started doing it, and I started pretending that, oh, your bending is working on me now. And she would like look down at her hands, like horrified for a minute, and then you see her just kind of look up and go, ha! And she started really getting into it, just harassing me. So I have a feeling her ability to role play this will not be
100%. The bending of Avatar is to that to a certain generation, just like morphing and playing as Power Rangers was for a different generation. It's just part of the psyche, right? And not only are they doing Avatar: The Last Airbender, but they're also doing Legend of Korra, which I think is wonderful too, because it's the same world, but an entirely different setting. You go from kind of this fantasy, low fantasy with bending to kind of the steampunk setting with bending. And so the first book, of course, coming out, the supplemental will be the capital city from Legend of Korra. And then the third book will be the Spirit Realms, which they both visited at one point, was the climax. Spoilers, but it's not really spoilers anymore. That show's been out for how long now? I don't even want to think about it.
Absolutely. Hey, let's move on to the next one. I know you're excited about this one in particular. This is Blue Rose Adventurer's Guide 5e. Now you actually brought this one up to us, so why don't you take the lead on it?
So Green Ronin has their.
Oh, wait. Hold up. Question: what kind of bender is Jeff? We have a question from the chat here.
What? I don't think that's a question that I can answer.
Yes, it is. You are the bender, sir.
What type of bender would I be? Wow. If I hold a gun to my head, I would say water.
Waterbender. Okay.
Yeah. The ebb and flow, the healing. That's more my lane as a person in general. So yeah, we'll go water.
Excellent question, guys. Remember, if you want to ask a question in chat, just type question in all caps. We'll spot it as quick as we can, and we'll try to get to it. For those, no, I am definitely not fire. For those making guesses, I am an earthbender, very likely. I love the good earth. So
he sells cabbages. Don't let him lie to you.
My cabbages. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, Blue Rose Adventurer's Guide. Take it away, Jeff.
So yeah, Green Ronin, with their age system, has a new 5e compatible Blue Rose Adventures Guide that released this week. So they are bringing the world of Aldea forward from their system into the 5e system. That's going to be compatible with all your 5e core rulebooks. There's some interesting, as an inclusive romantic fantasy setting, which I think is a very interesting term that I want to come back to. with some different takes on the notion of fantasy role playing and settings. This 176-page Blue Rose Adventure Guide makes it a great opportunity for 5e gamers looking for a change of pace or more inclusive setting for their games. And as planar travel has long been a part of the setting, it can be seamlessly sewn into a campaign as either a stopover or as part of a larger story arc. Some interesting things that I took from looking at it, I noticed that they don't have dwarves and elves in the setting. So, but they plenty of orcs, as you can see from the imagery. um, 5e players will find a wealth of new game material in the adventure guide, including several new ancestries, subclasses, feats, backgrounds, and many, many different options and items throughout. PDF versions can be found through either Green Ronin's store or the PDF and a print on demand version can be found at Drive Through RPG. The print on demand is a hardback. There's an option for the PDF, the hardback by itself, or the PDF and the hardback as well for a limited time. The print on demand option is actually at a $10 discount at Drive Through RPG. This romantic fantasy offer will be available through Valentine's Day, February 14th. So until the 14th, so 5 more days, you can go pick this up for $10 off, which is pretty good. Brings it down to, I think it was $35, which is very reasonable for a full size adventure guides converting a setting into the 5e system.
Okay. This is
Uh,
just going to be pretty interesting because so I did some checking on fantasy romance just because I was also curious about it while we were here, and I'll be I've posted some stuff on behalf of us on the chat. So romantic fantasy, it's a subgenre of fantasy fiction. It describes a fantasy story using many of the chivalric, chivalry, romance, my lady, all this other stuff.
okay,
So it
okay,
romanticizes
okay.
that chivalry and social political relationships that occurred with that romance as well. And so we'll see a lot of focus on relationships, social and political and romantic relationships, in addition to the usual combat and other things that fantasy sees.
I think it presents a great opportunity, particularly if you integrate it into your scenario or into your current campaigns,
Mhm.
like a stopover or as a story arc, because you bring dwarves, you bring elves, or you come in with maybe a bit more rough and tumble. You're going to kind of hit a like a Yankee in King Arthur's court type of scenario where it's going to be you're going to cause some problems and it's going to create some conflict, which, as you know, conflict is a great driver of story.
Absolutely. And on top of that, if this is so, I picked up the Lost Citadel role playing for 5e as well from Green Ronin. And if that book was any indicator, we know that this book is going to be a spectacular visual bonanza. In addition, it's going to be a tome that's going to have a great deal of information. Some of the things in Lost Citadel role playing, and I'm gonna bet very solidly that some of the stuff from Blue Rose Adventurer's Guide will have some mechanics that you may find useful in your other 5e games.
Yep.
So like if you're into those social or romanticized relationships in your games, because I came from the background of knights and dragons and stuff like that as well from my fantasy role playing, and I've expanded obviously since then. But when that was the foundation of your stuff, there were some great things about being the knight that slayed the dragon. The important thing of those adventures, what you learned from it, was you could slay the dragon, right? But the thing I think is most interesting is it's already challenging enough, but Green Ronin has continually come out with a quality product,
Hmm.
visually appealing,
Oh yeah.
unbelievable color, as well as some fantastic mechanics that really adds a flavor to the game. And you can choose to plug that in or not. So if you're interested in plugging that in, it's a great way. Or if you want to explore the world of Aldea, which is probably very well developed, as well as plenty of open devices, because they're really good about that too, to explore it in the way that you want,
Yep.
without feeling you're hemmed in.
Yeah.
Nothing else to add, huh?
Well, no, I mean, you were talking about the classes, and it does
Mhm.
talk about every single basic class in D&D 5e has a subclass in this adventurer's guide. So there is a opportunity for a lot of and I think it was 8 feats were mentioned, 3 ancestries, which perhaps that's what the new lineage could be compatible with, or something in that realm. Because this is coming out after, I don't know how much after they went to press or went to, well, they didn't go to print because this is not a, you're not going to find it in the store. So they could have implemented some of the changes from Tasha's guide into that ancestry with lineage kind of that mentality in thought. So definitely some interesting stuff that is going to make and give a little bit more variety, like you said.
Yeah, I'm nothing but impressed with the stuff that they're doing these days. So, um, let's take a look at what's next on the agenda here. It looks like, hold up, if I can get this thing right.
Your favorite.
Oh yeah, you know it. Whenever we can get giant miniatures out on a table, I am all about it. It is the Whiz Kids ginormous adult blue dragon. Um, it's from Icon of the Realms, the adult blue dragon premium figure. It's now available for pre-order. This is an excellent miniature for your collection, as well as for a centerpiece for your shelf on your displays, and makes a hell of an evil big bad guy. It's sculpted with highly detailed features. It is painted, and you can see it's painted what looks like to a pretty good standard, and it's perfect for any TTRPG adventure. So if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, the World of Aldea, or other role-playing fantasy realms, or any place where you need a giant blue dragon for that matter, this is perfect. This model actually releases in April of 2021. I was very impressed with the delivery and the pictures, which, we're just, I can't do it justice. So we linked it in chat so you guys can see it. Definitely something to take a look at. It will be huge, and it's not small at all. I think a miniature comes up to like the first elbow joint on its arm. So, and I think these things spit lightning in Dungeons and Dragons, so it can't possibly be a good thing to be hit by one of these beasts.
So, I mean, I'm just like looking through, and this is going to be joining some of the other icons of the realms, as it's as it's what its series is. You've got Adult White, which is sold out, Adult Sapphire, which is sold out, and then the Black Adult Black, which is still there, which also looks amazing. So it's joining with several other figures that are either sold out or just amazing. So this is just another piece for your collection, for sure. Looks like a release of April, right?
April is when it's released. You can pre-order right now, though. That's why we're telling you about it, so you can get it just in case. Because so you can get it before it sells out, in case it does. So we want to make sure we give people as much notice as possible. We'll probably talk about it again in April.
So yeah,
But
Luke brought up a good point.
Mhm.
Pre-painted or not, which is the preference?
I prefer not pre-painted personally. Even my pre-painted stuff, I usually wind up going back over it. But that's just me personally. However, I will say this: for the right person, pre-painted is exactly the way to go for them. If they just want something to throw on a table and they just say, "Look, this is a giant dragon," and they go with it, hey, good for them. Find their bliss, right? But for me, I actually enjoy something that looks spectacular on the table, and I will put a lot more time into this dragon than say the person who had to paint this as quickly as possible and then get it on the assembly line, right?
I'm just looking at this price and I'm like, I don't know if I would see it. I don't know how much lower they would go for non pre-painted. Like even pre-painted, this is a really good price.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's that the value of it is pretty good. So you know that they're going easy going on it. They're not killing themselves. They're definitely making sure that these things get pointed up to a good level.
Yeah, this is a
You know.
great level for
Mhm.
like it's so good to see that mass produced is looking so good these days.
Yeah, I wonder what we're going to see as we see more and more developments along with production.
Yeah, as we talked
Um,
about with the rise of plastic miniatures in the US.
mhm, mhm. All right, next up, let's get into that. Reaper Bones is releasing, or Reaper Miniatures is releasing their latest and most cool, newest Reaper Bones USA miniature. The reason Reaper Bones USA is so big a deal is because it is made in the USA. It is a completely manufactured in the United States. It is the highest level of technology available at this point from Reaper. As they launched Reaper Bones USA, Reaper Miniatures is giving away a free Bones USA miniature each month in 2021 with any purchase above a certain point. There's certain rules apply. But for February, the Bones USA miniature they chose is Darius the Wizard, sculpted by the very talented Bobby Jackson. He did the previous months as well. This is a characterful looking wizard. I mean, you can see the spell book is open on him. He's putting out his hand. You can see the motion of the robes as he's casting the spell. But I think the most characterful thing on there is the little rat familiar sitting on the spell book, watching him do his work patiently from the top of the book. To see this now put in a Reaper Bones polymer is going to be exciting for a lot of people. If you're ordering in February, you've got an option to get this miniature.
Should I feel that that wizard is much stronger than he's appearing? Because holding a tome with a giant, that is not a small rat. That is a giant rat.
The spell book is probably magic, and he's just holding it to hold it in the right direction. It maybe floats on its own when he's not actually holding it. I don't pretend to understand the ways of arcane wizardry, smoke and mirrors and magic and all that stuff. And as you can see, as Michael Kleeman has painted this particular miniature, he's put a lot of spectacular artwork in it.
Oh yeah,
object source lighting off the tome itself, the lighting on the rat, and he even got the fingernails on the hand, which is a pretty impressive feat to say the least. So, okay, moving on to the next item. Jeff, take her away for Corvus Belli, my friend.
Yeah, so mentioned last week, but I couldn't remember the name of the time, and it kind of bugged me. Infinity was the game that I was thinking of by Corvus Belli. The other significant skirmish game that you typically see, tabletop miniature game that you often see played alongside Malifaux in your local game stores. As with Weird, Corvus Belli is going strong with their 2020 releases. They have 4 new Infinity boxes or packs and 2 of their Code 1 booster packs, which is a more streamlined version of the Infinity game. All these models are now available, with the packs ranging from a single model to 10 in the Alepht's Operations Action Pack. No matter what, though, these models have a great look as combat rages. If you haven't seen Infinity, they use a lot of one-story buildings, and it is a fast-paced, action-oriented shooter with melee options. Just by looking at these models, this is just like a dip in the boat. This is 1 month of release. Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
One month. They've got a whole nother. They've already got several lined. I'm already seeing for February popping up. It's just amazing. It looks outstanding. They have a much different feel than several other games that you're going to see that are at the top of their of the skirmish game. So this is the opposite end of the spectrum from Malifaux. This is kind of a techno fantasy, which is much different than Warhammer's gritty fantasy, what is that? Dark. Wow.
Grimdark,
yeah.
Grimdark, my friend. Yes.
I'm sorry, Luke. I'm sorry, but it's just this is what we do, right? We're gonna bring this to you every week. We're gonna bring new and great miniatures and RPGs and board games from all over, not just the big names. We're gonna bring just about anything we can find that looks outstanding, that has lots of promise, that is stuff that you're going to not only be able to play but find others to play with you, which that's the hope, at least.
Luke says he's going to find some self-control somewhere. Just look for it in the box that you stored away along with your money, because it's going to be emptied out real fast with that one. So shut up and take my money. I want these miniatures too. I actually play a little bit of Infinity. I have a small force And I'm kind of excited to see some of the things as they come out with more and more. The great thing about Infinity, I think, is they actually have an online rule system, so it gets updated as they add the miniatures, almost right then and there. And there's, I think, there may be an app. I'll have to check to see if there's an app here soon. But the miniatures are, you look at some of the top miniatures companies out there, and I think Corvus Belli's Infinity Miniatures, hands down in the sci-fi realm, they're a tier 1 miniature producer in terms of quality, look of miniatures, spectacular detail, paintability, and just the look. Each faction has a look that ties the faction together, but each one is uniquely different from each faction as well. So, and then a very, very high sci-fi environment. So
Yes.
the technology, the brutality of some of these firefights is actually pretty spectacular too.
And Reed, do you see what's in the middle there?
A drone.
Yeah. Come on, what's its name?
I don't remember the name of the drone.
No. It's what it's based upon. It's the Tachikoma. Come on.
Oh, is it really?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what it looks like. It's a spider bot on wheels.
Yeah, everybody's saying Tachikoma in chat too. Like they're like, Reed, you idiot! Like, how do you not know this? 10,000% Tachikoma. People are saying, I love it. You guys are great.
Bill has caught it too. So those red ones on the right side, those are the cheer killers.
They definitely look like they're killers. I think one of them's wielding a baseball bat with unusual prowess. And I think that wraps up the miniatures for this week.
Yep.
Right. So
yeah, still a good.
Still good. I mean, with the Infinity alone, I mean that's a lot of minis. So people are going to be busy, I think, with that. Moving to the next cool thing. Yeah, we've got board games.
Yes. And up first, one that popped out at me. It's not going to be huge, but I think it is a good piece for your family. For if you've got, perhaps this is going to be something that's going to be a bit quicker to play. 7 Summits from Oxeye Media. It's a push your luck competitive dice drafting game. 2 to 5 players. So a good number. 5 players is a good number. Fairly quick play. You're looking at 30 to 40 minutes a game. Easy to learn. Available for most ages. One thing that immediately drew my eye is the use of D4s. It uses D4s. I can't think of a game.
It's a lot of pain on your feet. I'm just saying.
I almost put down caltrops, but I didn't. I held myself. Not a lot of games use the D4 table or board games, at least. It's nice to see, though it does have limitations compared to the D6, and I think you're going to see that in maybe some of its reviews that the D4. That I still think I like the symbolism, and I think that's where they are going with it. It's about mountains. The D4 looks like it's the pyramid shape, so it's got that peak
mountain look. Yeah, I see it.
So this game is coming this month. I don't have a specific date, but February release, and it's currently available for pre-order.
Is this one? Who's this? This is Oxeye Media. Oxeye Media.
Oxeye Media, yes.
I'm pretty impressed with just the graphics on it.
Oh yeah, no, it looks
like it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, it looks great.
And their session time with 30 to 40 minutes for play is perfect for family play as well as a group of friends.
Yep.
You probably fit in 1 or 2 games at a time in a single game night with your friends.
Or rotate. You don't have to waste an entire night trying to teach rules, go through, play one game, and be done. You can get a few games in and have a good time.
Yeah, so that improves user adoption rate as well. That's awesome, man. I love it. Moving to the next cool thing. 2021 is going to bring 3 new box sets specifically designed to help new players find more with the exciting hobby of Games Workshop miniatures and games. So we've had quite a few new cool people joining our Discord talking about Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000. So if you're not on our Discord, definitely join it when you get a chance. I think you'll find some exciting stuff there too. But these 3 box sets we're going to go over are really all about bringing in that new player. So if you're looking for a gift for that man in your life that doesn't play tabletop miniature games, or that woman that really should, um, um, this is the opportunity, right? So you can get them this small box. He or she will probably kill you if you get them this box, and they didn't really want it, by the way. But if they did want it and they just wanted to learn, or if you know that person who's been really, because this is not the Valentine's Day present to give somebody, maybe. But if you know somebody who's really been talking about, I'd really like to get into Age of Sigmar, or I'd really like to get into Warhammer 40,000, this is a great way to do it. So we'll start with Bladeborn, okay? Bladeborn is a fast-paced skirmish game, clashing warbands for 2 players. It sees Kagra's Ravagers face off against the Godsworn Hunt to earn a place at Archon the Everchosen's army. You'll need to leverage unique skills for your fighters to claim victory over your opponent, and you'll get to use all the models, dice, and cards you can shake probably an especially sharp blade at. And best of all, if your friends like Bloodborne, you're only a small jump and a skip into Warhammer Underworlds and then even bigger Warcry. So if you're looking at Warhammer Age of Sigmar, this is a great way to get people learning the mechanics, having some fun on a smaller scale. And it doesn't feel as much like playing a tabletop war game with all the expansive setup requirements and stuff like that. This gets people to see it from a good start. Next after that, Doomsday Countdown, Space Marine Adventures, Doomsday Countdown. Space Marine Adventures it's getting a completely new entry into the cooperative board game starring 3 Space Marines, only 3, count them 3, as they are facing off against countless chaos cultists throughout a hive city. The game is easily taught, making it good for most ages as they foray into the grim, dark 41st millennium. It comes with 10 push-to-fit miniatures from Citadel, which, even though they're pushed to fit, you can already see the detail level is extremely high. The 3 models at the top there are painted versions of the models. You can learn to paint like that too. And it's fairly quick to play as well. 30 to 45 minutes a game. They also thought about, board game session time when they put this together. Infiltrate the base, disarm the bomb, save the day. Perhaps you'll survive on the way out. Let's see here. This one I actually see painting and playing. Countless Chaos Cultists. That's a triple C threat. Why, Villas, you are right, good sir. It is a triple C threat. Next up on the list is Fireteam, Warhammer 40,000 Fireteam. It's the final entry for 2021 for small board games. It's a new game of tactical squad combat, pitting the Space Marines of the Indominus Crusade against the Necrons. Taking the competitive arena combat from fantasy into the 41st millennium, Fireteam is it's a great first taste of the Warhammer 40K universe for newcomers, and an exciting new spin on this Warhammer game for veterans. Comparatively to Space Marine Adventures, there's a bit more depth to the combat of Fireteam, fulfilling that need for a tactical board game to sink your teeth into. So each of the characters are going to get special abilities for each miniature or different functionality. And with a demi squad of 5 Space Marines and an entire Necron host, I think you're going to be pretty busy, either side. So we'll see how this goes. I'm pretty excited about the miniatures and the quality level. It's probably going to be a great value just in the miniatures alone. Plus, you get some great tabletop games out of it. Anything you want to add to any of these, Jeff?
No, I think they're all pretty good. It's good to see, particularly Space Marine Adventures. Doomsday Countdown looks to be a good entry level compared to the other 2. Just by its look, it had the least amount of things on the table that make it easy to the cards look fairly simple. It doesn't look like there's a lot of rules. It's pretty linear, straightforward. So I think it's going to be something that can really get someone in the flavor of 40K or in a flavor of Warhammer and get them going. It's a great starting piece. It's probably my favorite of the 3.
Awesome. You want to take us into the next one?
Oh yeah. So Fantasy Flight Games has a new game that's coming out in first quarter. Don't have a specific date, but first quarter of this year. So sometime either February or March. X-Men Mutant Insurrection. With 8 different plots for you to battle, 16 playable X-Men eager for their first mission, a full range of difficulty settings, and the ability to play with 1 to 6 players. No two games of X-Men Mutant Insurrection should be the same. And just by looking at it and going through the articles that I was able to find, I'm comparing this to the Elder Sign game, um, which is also another Fantasy Flight product. So I'm sure they took similar mechanics and have converted them in some ways to this nice. It is kind of like like a roll for resources type of game with the dice, that you then use the resources for special abilities to defeat the enemies, um, which is quite a few. As you can see, yes, that is a Blackbird that you can put your miniatures on. What mechanic does it have? I have no idea, but it's pretty cool. I think one of the other big draws for me is going to be that 6 player upper limit. It's sometimes hard to find games that fit 6 at the table. And I've always noticed, for whatever reason, the groups that I get around with, like for a board game night or something, we tend to be either 5 or 6. So having that ability to seat 6 at the table is huge, and just so important.
What's the play time on this? Did they mention that yet?
They might have. I don't remember seeing it off the top of my head. I think it's probably going to be on the upper end. Um, just because these type of games tend to go longer because uh,
It's
you're
got all
going
these different
through.
mission choices. I think that's part of the.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of continuous play should you want it.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. That's really cool, man. I dig it. And the Blackbird, it's all I can do not to just buy it just so I can see if it works like a paper airplane. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but
I'm pretty sure it doesn't either.
know.
It's pretty cool. If you go to the link, one of the pictures or one of the villains is a 3-part battle against the Phoenix, which I think is just an interesting way of putting the combat system together. Makes really feel like you're facing off against a big bad.
I see. I see. That actually is pretty cool. Um, let's see here. What do we got next today? I think we start our Kickstarter roundup.
Oh boy.
Well,
Uh,
well, we'll start with Nerdburger Games. Low Stakes Zine Quest 3. Their Kickstarter is now up and running. For those of you who didn't see us last week, we interviewed Craig Campbell from Nerdburger Games, and we figured we'd also go ahead and mention this amazing Kickstarter this week. Um, Low Stakes is the current game that Nerdburger Games is coming out with. It follows Zine Quest 3's annual prompt from a Kickstarter of a rules light RPG built around the characters' words and actions rather than narrative. The setting's an urban fantasy where vampires, witches, werewolves, and so many other things can interact in a modern world and try to live together in a simple sitcom-style play story adventure. Craig compared it in many ways to What We Do in the Shadows as part of his inspiration in the setting. Having smashed through its initial goal, there's still 7 days left for Low Stakes, ending on the evening of Tuesday, February 16th. You could see the artwork, really comic, really interesting. We posted the link in chat for you guys as well. And it looks like there's a really cool character sheet that you can use so you can understand, kind of like your role per se as you pick it up. So it's, this is your persona, and
and
it
they're
kind of gives
very
you a stereotype that you can work with, it looks like.
and they're very modifiable. There's a lot of options here. Like it says, rules light, so it's quick, it's easy. Pick it up, you go. I believe this doesn't have a GM at the table. It's literally just the players going back and forth with their abilities for the most part, um, or with prompts and little insinuate or not insinuate, but little prompts to get you going. It's very good looking. Low barrier to entry. Like these aren't very expensive to get into. Quick, easy, something to have on the shelf, something that you can whip out at a moment's notice in order to bring some levity to the table.
Exactly. And I think, as Naceris just mentioned in chat, um, it's an improv the game essentially, and I think
Yep.
that's a really good way to express it. Um, when you can get some of that type of gameplay that gives you that fun improv feel, it's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And it's also a different flavor from your normal TTRPG as well. So, moving on to the next one, why don't you take us through that one, Jeff?
Yeah, Cryptid Cafe, board game by Squatchy Games. Kickstarter, you play a Sasquatch, though they've already busted through the stretch goals, so that it's not going to just be a Sasquatch. It's going to be several other servers. But you're going to be a server with up to 5 players now. They also broke that stretch goal to expand the game from 4 to 5 players, which, as I said before, 5, 6, those are those critical numbers because 4, you always find 4 is just you always have a odd person out. So going up to 5 is going to be great and you seek to gain the best tip for quickly filling orders of a variety of cryptids from around the world. You've got the abominable snowman and several other beasties there's a set number of turns. Basically, on the customers come in, and every turn they move down the line. If you can't fulfill their order by the time they get to the exit, then you lose their money and you don't get any money from them. Everyone's going at the same time. So everyone's got their own line, but they're all sharing one chef. So they have to fight over who's got access to the different foods that the chef is making. First come, first serve. Um, which drives the system. I compared it to Sushi Go Round. It had a similar feel in many ways for me. Um, you can also, because it is set rounds, it does have a set time, right? For the most part, as long as everyone's playing without dragging their feet, the game's going to be. You're going to know how long the game should take
About
from the
45
get
minutes,
go.
according to this. It's great.
Yeah,
That's a great time, and I love the artwork too.
it's pretty art. It's a fresh take on the resource and order management to reach victory. Everyone's driving to be the most legendary server. Uh, it's already doubled its goal. It still has 50 that it set out to make. It still has 15 days to go on its Kickstarter. Plenty of time to join in. Uh, Again, cost of entry is not very high for a board game of this quality. That, at least from what I see, this is definitely something I'm jumping on. Reasonably priced compared to other tabletop games of its type and of its style. Real winner here. It's closing at noon on Friday, February 25th.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. So there's still a little bit of time on this one.
Yep. 15 days.
Yeah.
Lots of time.
All right. Okay. What's next on the agenda there? This is, I think, is
This is one where if you have been around Reddit or if you've been down the rabbit hole of the internet, you have run across SCP, the foundation for. Uh, yeah. If you know what the foundation is, secure, contain, protect. So it's one of the stranger places to delve into the internet for sure. But it has become a hive and origin of many of the modern cryptid stories and darker tales in our modern world. I point to creepypastas if you know what that is, and the like. Whereas some of there's already been a couple modified like ad hoc RPGs that have been used for the game. This is the first one that really looks to be fleshed out. Um, I know a lot of people have been used Call of Cthulhu's Delta Green setting to play in the SCP type world, which is a modern world that uses technology and other stuff to fight or to combat these creeps. Um, so this is coming at a balanced approach for SCP as far as a game perspective. A little, not rules light, but it's not super deep at the first. As you go, The book itself is actually part of the campaign, and as you rank up, it unlocks the next parts of the book. You know, it tells you don't go here. You know, don't open this page until you reach this level. So, and as you open up levels, it not only unlocks new SCPs to explore, also unlocks more powers, technology to combat them.
Oh,
Um,
cool. So it's not just a role playing game, but it has like you literally are unlocking different things
Yeah, the
as you
story.
go.
Yeah, it's got a story. I wouldn't call it a story per se, but it's got levels,
A mechanic.
which includes
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
This was easily funded within the first couple hours of its launch. It still has 11 days remaining. It'll be closing on Sunday, the morning of Sunday, February 21st. Um, Looks solid. SCP is a very interesting scenario. Like as a GM, you could get these rules and then go to the SCP vault and read one of the thousands of stories there and literally drag that setting directly to your table if you so desire. There's so much fodder there that just having and that's why a lot of people have used like Call of Cthulhu's Delta Green, because all you really need is a system to run because the setting is huge.
Remember, secure, contain, protect. And what's next? We got Traveler mercenary campaigns in the far future.
Yep.
Tell us all about it.
So Mongoose Publishing, who brought Traveler Second Edition. So Traveler, if you don't know, is a game from the '80s. It's had several editions since then, but Mongoose Publishing, I think in 2016, published Traveler Second Edition. This is going to be a box set, the Mercenary box set. It's set to bring at least 3 new books. Based upon the stretch goals, they've already surpassed 3 books. We're probably looking at 5, maybe 6. I don't know how they're going to do the stretch goals, if they're just going to combine them into an extra book or not, or if they're all going to be their own individual. It's going to go into your collection, enable you to recruit, equip your own mercenary unit as you fight your way across the Traveler universe. Everything is provided in the set for you to do this, from the initial creation of your unit to the building of tickets for your travelers to attempt with specialized units and equipment, the ability to enhance units' capabilities, and enough adventuring material to kickstart any new campaign. Several additional add-on adventures and filler items have already been unlocked, like I spoke, as this Kickstarter also blasted through its stretch goals. It still has 25 days to go. Like, there's a lot of interest in this already. You have plenty of time if you are a fan of Traveler, or if you want this to expand your Traveler universe. Of course, it is not a standalone product. It does require the second edition of Traveler to play. This Kickstarter closes early morning. It was like 3 a.m. Or yeah, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Sunday, March the 7th.
Someone mentioned that Traveler is where people say you like to say you can die in character creation.
Yep, that is a common phrase.
Oh wow.
Because
I,
you're doing your character and then I died. Okay.
it's nice to see Traveler, getting some love after so many years of it just kind of languishing in the dust, and now seeing just how far it's coming with additional updates and gorgeous artwork and more to back it up.
I was actually looking at the guy that's the head of Mongoose. Maybe not the head, but he's one of the head writers. He's writing this expansion. He did the second edition Traveler release. He also did Judge Dredd's tabletop miniature game from the early 2010s. You remember
Oh,
that?
did he?
Yeah, he did that. He also did the Babylon 5 tabletop space battle game. Do you remember those miniatures? Those were
Hmm.
great looking.
Yeah.
But so he's got experience in the gaming world. So definitely not like Mongoose Publishing, maybe not something that everyone's heard of, but it's got some pedigree behind it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely, it has some history and stuff, and the right people behind it too.
Moving on.
Okay. This is one I know you're excited about.
Yeah. I mean, I do enjoy it. Catalyst Game Labs, which is will always be near and dear to my heart until such time as they sell a certain IP, has
Nice little caveat there, buddy.
has a new repertoire for their profile system mechanic, Centurion. It is a tile-based strategy game. This is joining alongside their originals in the system, the Duke and the Jarl. This is going to be the third in the series, which brings another dynamic to the tile board. Um, so if you don't know about this system, uh, basically it plays like really advanced chess. You play on a grid board similar to a chessboard, though much smaller. It's only like 6x6 grid, maybe 5x5. Um, and as you can see on those tiles, there's a lot of symbols. Well, those yeah, it's 5x5 because the the tiles match up to what that token can do. So a dot is a single move. Um,
Hmm.
a maybe a arrow is a slide move. There's a jump move. There's blocking where it can't be attacked from that direction. It can only be attacked from other, not where those things are. Like I said, it plays like advanced chess. It's a very interesting, very dynamic system. Uh, Lots of gameplay, lots of replayability as these tokens. You randomize when you're picking your tokens out of the bag for what you're going to play that session. Um, that's one of the game modes, at least. I have the Duke. It's literally sitting on my desk over there. Um, and also, it looks like they're following a theme. So we started off with knights, went to Vikings, and we got Romans, and they even announced the next follow on, which will be daimyo, so samurai. Um, so they're continuing on in this system, and I'm pretty sure these are all interoperable. You can play with all your tokens, so lots of options, lots of gameplay. Uh, solid piece.
Yeah, I could see you playing the samurai version when this comes out for your L5R.
Uh, it doesn't have to be that, but I probably will pick it up. Um, yeah. Onitama Villas. It looks very similar. Uh, yeah, the actually, yeah, that looks really similar.
Chat just asked if this is like Onitama,
Yeah,
and
that's what
yeah, yeah,
I just brought it up, and it looks suspiciously similar.
yeah. All right, next up, we got some conventions to talk about. It sounds like.
Yeah. So first, some bad news. Star Wars Miniatures World Championships have been delayed until 2022. Announcement was made by Final Fantasy Flight Games, but this was on behalf of Atomic Mass Games, as Asmodee made a decision in November to move the development and the control of the Star Wars miniature lines to Atomic Mass Games from Fantasy Flight Games. Though, as you can see, because Fantasy Flight's still putting it out, uh, Atomic Mass Games still hasn't fully stood up yet, which I'm sure because of the pandemic they're a little delayed. So while the World Championships have been delayed, they're still looking at doing organized play as long as certain things fall in place by the end of summer. So if numbers are down, vaccines are being spread, they're definitely looking at picking up tournaments and other events to slowly build up momentum as they go into 2022. But they also said if it's still looking even still a little rough, that they're going to just keep pushing everything down the line. So maybe a light on the end of the tunnel, but at the same time, uh, everything's getting pushed back further. Um, but you have anything?
No, no, I just think it's sad that we see that the stuff has been pushed back the way it is. I think it's interesting move to see that Fantasy Flight Games is removing it or seeing miniature development moved over to Atomic Mass Games. I think that's an interesting development. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what's going on
What's
there.
going on there?
I don't know how much you're tracking, but what was it? I want to say that it was March of last year. Asmodee first moved all of its role playing games. Well, not
Mm-hmm.
all of them, but a lot of their role playing games out of Fantasy Flight as well.
Mm-hmm.
They are now Edge Entertainment, a
Yeah.
Spanish French company. But still a subsidy of Asmodee. Asmodee still owns it all. They're just basically reshuffling, giving certain parts of the pie. You know, they're divesting Fantasy Flight from miniatures, tabletop, and role playing games to only focus on a certain. So I think they're only focusing on the cards. So their limited card game L5R and oh, the other one's evading me now. They have two. Um, and so they're divesting them of the miniatures, they're divesting them of the RPGs. So that's what's going on. That's why I was kind of surprised it wasn't made back when they made the initial RPG announcement, but I guess they just waited until November.
So it looks like Chad even just echoed what I was about to say. Fantasy Flight is focusing on board games and card games only, which I think is interesting considering how much money they created getting Star Wars up and running. So
But I mean,
interesting to see it.
again, Atomic Mass Games, the guy running Atomic Mass Games is from Fantasy Flight. They
Yeah.
Asmodee literally just picked up a guy and be like, "Hey, you're going to run this other subsidiary now. You've got your own company. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
focus on this. Fantasy Flight, you focus on this. Edge Entertainment, you focus on this."
Mm-hmm.
It's 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 spreading your eggs out so that they're not all in one basket, so that you can really dive deep into each one. You know, you can specialize more. I think there is some there's probably some nefarious capitalistic plot also behind whatever they're doing, but you know, the optimist in me at least looks at it in that light.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, moving on to the next piece,
So still,
Gamma.
yeah. So Gamma, who of course owns Origins Game Fair, has come out with an announcement. Origins Game Fair has been moved, uh, not tentatively, has been moved to September 30th through October 3rd. So generally, Origins Game Fair is held in middle of June. They've already made the decision to move from that June weekend to the end of September, beginning of October, um, because it's, you know, based upon what everyone else is seeing, you know, we're at least looking at the summer at the earliest. They're hoping that come September, there's enough vaccine out, you know, herd immunity, what have you, um, that numbers are down. I'm sure that if numbers are not down, this date will get punted again. And after that, because they did this last year too, where they announced that they were going to hold it in, I want to say late August, early September. And that one ended up falling through, of course. I'm sure the same thing would happen again. Um, for those that are wanting to know, June 1st is the new hotel block opening, so you can get in on the hotel blocks on June 1st now, with badge sales opening on the 5th of June. And also, this year's events will include a mix of physical programming. Key programming will be streamed and exclusive online content. So instead of, you know, going to a hall and listening to people talk, you will stream it to your phone while you're sitting, you know, socially distanced from other people.
That's a
Yes,
pretty good
safety.
idea.
Yeah, they're still definitely, if you go on to the link, safety rules are still going to be in play. At a minimum, they list ones that they're talking about, more if necessary.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I'm glad to see they're at least thinking about positioning and timing for these conventions and trying to get them back up and running because I know a lot of people need them. But
Yeah, because
I think safety is the number one concern, and I'm glad to see that's actually a statement they put in there that safety is their number one concern.
yeah,
So that if they have to waive off, they will. You know.
and they're already making the decision, because usually about this time is when the housing block and the badges would go on sale.
Hmm.
Would be February and March. Now, what's interesting is I haven't seen anything from Gen Con yet, because Gen Con also, housing block usually goes on sale in January. So that we haven't heard anything from Gen Con is somewhat concerning, but I have a feeling we're
Do you
probably going to see an announcement in the next month or two.
do you mean hotel block when you say housing block?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
housing. You live there
Yeah.
now.
All right, guys.
Actually, I take it back. I guess I just never got the announcement. Their badge registration event submission for Gen Con 2021 has been postponed. More information soon.
Okay. And with that, we're gonna take a short break as we get ready for bringing on Matt Fellman, one of the new creative talents behind the Games Tavern on the Short Shots and possibly some other projects as well. He is a experienced streamer and an experienced drama guy as well. So he's got some background that's fairly interesting, and you're going to get a chance to ask him questions and find out more about him hopefully today too. Hey, and just before we go on break, I just want to mention the Games Tavern Patreon shares with its patrons every week the show notes so that you can see the links yourself, in addition to a whole bunch of other cool things like plug-in encounters, battle maps, behind the scenes content, notes from various characters so you can read what letters they may have written, and of course, paint plans for those who like miniatures and painting. There's a tier for everyone. So you can focus giving your support where you want to see your support given to help the show and the cast and crew. And we really appreciate all of you that are patrons of the show. Veritas 23, Rose, and a couple more. We cannot thank you enough for all of your support. Next up, let's just go ahead and go to the break. And when we come right back, we will be excited to interview Matt. Hey, we're back. Thanks for coming back to the Games Tavern Happy Hour. I'm joined today by Matt Fellman. Matt Fellman is a longtime TTRPG player, as well as quite a bit of extreme streaming experience going as far back as 2019, which when you look at streaming as a whole is actually a pretty long time when you talk about Twitch live streaming. So excited to have you here. Now you were on YouTube and stuff like that too, or were you?
Yep.
Okay.
We had a channel. It was called Chaotic Night Network,
Mhm.
and we had launched like March of 2019,
Mhm.
and we had a solid start. We ran through most of the, our setup was janky at first,
Mhm.
but we built it, and we had a full studio, and we ran shows that were we had like 4 RPG shows going,
Mhm.
painting show, painting miniatures and stuff. So it was really good. And we even got over we made Twitch affiliate like that.
Mhm.
I think it was like a month. You have to at least be streaming a month, and you have to meet these other benchmarks. And we met all that within the month. And then as soon as the month hit, we made our Twitch affiliate, and it was big. It was like, yeah, we're in. But it's funny because Twitch does that where it's like, sure, you hit the affiliate stage and that's monumental, but the partner stage, that's
That's the challenge.
That's the hill to climb. That's
Yeah. And excitingly, we're seeing a lot of growth, and we're excited to see you here as being a part of that growth too.
Yeah.
Just so the audience knows, because I think it's interesting, is where in the world are you right now?
I am in Northwest Montana,
Mhm.
a little town called Kalispell, Montana, just south of Whitefish, which is just south of the Canadian border. So we are going through a massive polar freeze right now. I believe the high is supposed to be mid negative teens on Thursday. And
So another
yeah,
balmy day in your location.
it's deep chill right now.
Yeah. Do you have snow fences out there? Because the snow gets so high that they have snow fences to help slow it down.
See, that's the funny thing. I moved here from Syracuse, New York, which, if you know, Syracuse has snow.
Oh yeah. Huge amounts of it from all the lake effect and everything else. Yeah.
Yep. So we moved out here, and it was funny because a lot of people are like, have you even been through a Montana winter? And I'm like, I'm from Syracuse, New York. And they're like, oh, the people that know. And they're like, oh, very sorry. Didn't mean to call into question your ability to weather the winter, but it's not bad here. The snow wise, they get 1 or 2 really good storms a year during the winter, but it's cold here, and the ice is awful. So, but otherwise, it's a serene, picturesque location, something like out of Lord of the Rings, with mountains and snow-capped mountains in the distance, and yeah, hiking everywhere, and it's really cool. So not my end place, but someday I'd like to move somewhere else, somewhere cool. A little warmer, maybe.
Someplace where there aren't penguins and polar bears potentially moving in any day now. Yeah. I can only imagine. And I've been in some pretty cold temperatures before too. But man, I can only imagine. I hope your house is nice, warm, and toasty. That's all.
It is. Yeah. And like I see in your chat there, Sage says, play Far Cry 5. That's pretty much, they modeled it after this area that I live in right now. So if you've played Far Cry 5, you've pretty much been where I live.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, where did you grow up? You didn't grow up in that area, did you?
No, I grew up in Syracuse.
Syracuse,
New York.
How did you come into, gaming in general? Like, when was your first tabletop game, and what was it?
So I'm 44.
Yeah.
So I grew up, my younger years were in the 80s. So I grew up through D&D's secretive rise. So it was funny because you didn't want to
when you couldn't admit it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's like, cool, everybody's D&D and I like D&D and my brother's cousin's uncle has a streaming channel and he streams D&D and I'm like,
Mhm.
what the heck? You know, before when I was a kid, we had to be like, oh yeah, we're playing poker Friday night. It was code for, you know, live through the satanic panic, you know, the whole, oh, it's the devil's game, you know.
Mhm.
So my first interaction with D&D was I lived across the street from a buddy of mine, and I would go across the street and we'd hang out on the weekend and stuff like that. That we went to school together. But so I went over and I knocked on his door one Saturday morning, and he said, "Oh no, I can't play because we're playing Dungeons and Dragons." And I was like 12, 13. I was like, "What's that?" Oh, well, you know, hang on a second. And he went in, his father was the DM, his mother and brother and a couple of friends that lived on the street, older kids, were playing as well. And they asked, "Hey, can he come in and play?" And they said, "Sure, you know, pull up a chair." And I went in, and that was it. That was he. So we
First
played.
cantrips free, kid.
Yeah, pretty
There you
much.
go.
We sat down. It was first edition
Uh-huh.
D&D.
Uh-huh.
I played it was just an NPC. It was a bad guy, but they basically knocked him out in the fight, and I became basically a thief, elf thief, and I was his name was Menlo Roche. I even remember his
Menlo
name.
Roche. I
Menlo
love it.
Roche.
I love it.
And yeah, we played through some of the classic campaigns, against the giants,
Mhm.
descent into the earth, just the temple of elemental evil,
Mhm.
you know, just some of the classics. And we played through, and it was hardcore. You know, it's funny because fifth edition and fourth edition, people talk about TPKs, and it's like, they happen. But you
Mhm.
know, if you're good DM and you balance it, back then they didn't
There
pull
was no
punches.
rule. There was nothing about it. Like there was even
No
times where
death
it would be almost,
saves.
yeah, it would be combative. You know, once your HP hit got below a certain level, basically you were dead. Yeah.
Yep.
It
Wizards
really,
were like, magic missile. I'm gonna hang out in the back now. You
yeah.
guys, good luck with that.
Oh yeah, because they had the one spell when they started.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
there were definitely some challenges there. But I'm glad to see how much fifth edition is, and as well as, you know, you saw updates in 3.5 and 4 and you know, and 5 is really smooth now.
It's been a progression,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I thought I'd never leave second edition. I was like,
Mhm.
second edition, I don't want to buy all these new books, you know. And then I moved out here, and I went to my LGS, and I was like, "Hey, you guys playing any second edition?" And they laughed, first of
Mhm.
all, and they were like, "No, we're playing fifth here." And I was like, "Oh, I only play second." And the guy that runs the shop was like, "Well, how's that working out for you?" I'm like, "Well, it's not." He's like, "Well, why don't you grab a fifth edition book and let's get started."
You know,
So
and the thing is I find that most people who like the earlier editions, once they play fifth edition and they realize how smooth it is, most of them, you know, some people are always going to be a hardliner. You know, they like
yeah,
what they like, right?
they like what they
But
like. It's
yeah,
fine.
but I stopped playing at third edition. I was a big second edition guy,
Hmm.
and then I stopped playing for like 20 years. It felt like, because I was playing in the 80s here as well, in the late
Oh, so you
90s.
were out
But
of it
oh
you were out
yeah,
of the game for quite a
I
while.
left, yeah. And then I made the mistake of opening a game store a long time ago, just a few years back actually, and
Yeah.
it's no longer around. But
Oh, dude.
yeah, but we obviously stocked fifth edition, and you know, it's important to know your products. So of course I was jumping in, and I started playing, and I fell in love with it immediately. Immediately, I was like,
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
is great. I'm back. And I've never stopped since. It's just been spectacular. And I'm a hardcore tabletop miniatures wargamer too.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I just don't have the patience for the model painting and collecting, and
Yeah. Uh-huh.
it's
You're a
funny because
heretic, you know that, right?
I know. Hey, friendship is magic and magic is heresy. So
Yeah, exactly. You get it. You get it. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say when I left, because I left for a while as well.
Mhm.
So I the DM that had gotten me into it, my buddy's father, he had brain cancer, and
no.
so he lost his eye. Well, that's the thing. So he lost his eye, but so he got an eye patch, and he liked to smoke a lot. So he would sit behind the classic DM screen, with the guy's prop pulling the ruby out of the eye and everything of the statue, and he'd sit back there. He's got a lamp behind him. He's smoking, just curling up around him as he's talking and painting the scene. He's got the eye patch, and he had this chuckle.
Oh my goodness.
It was like a dragon. It was so thematic, and it was perfect. I'd been in it for a while, and then my buddy and I played after we stopped playing with them, and then I met my wife. So I left that behind for a while to foster relationships, and had a
How'd that work out for you?
Good. We got we're still married. So she's my high school sweetheart. We're married, and we've got 3 kids now.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yep. So that's so about halfway through that, I joined up with this other crew, and we'd played 2nd edition until I moved away, and we moved out here to Montana. So I'd been in it for a while, left it, came back, and then bumped up to 5th edition.
So when was the first RPG? Was that the first RPG you also DM'd?
5th edition?
Yeah.
I tried to DM 2nd edition a few times. It's tough. As Gia Critique says, the woman who would be queen of the Karens. My wife's name is Karen. She was actually on the streaming show.
Really?
She was one of my players and that was her first time really in a D&D game. And it's funny. She played a paladin of vengeance.
Really?
Vengeance.
No subtlety there. Okay.
No, she is very, no nonsense when it comes to dishing out justice.
Justice.
She liked to sever heads a bit too much. So I'm like, so how do you want to handle this death? And she's like, lop the head off. Okay.
Vengeance is done. Vengeance is quick. Vengeance is fierce. Okay.
It is indeed.
So you started DMing around 5th edition then. That's really when you came into it. Now you've DM'd quite a bit from what I understand.
Yep. I DM'd a show on the streaming channel. We had a show called RPG Out of the Box where I started out. The show was I would get various RPG starter box sets, and I would RPG the opening adventure that came with that box set for various systems. We started with 5th edition. We did Starfinder. And we did Shadowrun, and then we started they didn't have Pathfinder's box set out yet, but we started with their first adventure, and then we retooled the show because they wanted the viewers and the players both wanted to do a longer form campaign. So then we tackled Baldur's Gate's Descent into Avernus.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what we had been going through when the show and channel came to an end.
Yeah.
Thanks COVID.
Thanks COVID. And at the same time, I have to thank COVID because now you've come on board with us, and we're happy to see you and all that stuff that goes with it. Hey, chat, if you guys have questions, just type question in all caps. We'll be taking questions from chat at any point in time. Unless your question would violate the terms of service, we pretty much will take almost any question. But try to be civil where possible. Let's see here. So DMing and all that. So you've played quite a few RPGs since you were doing, all these different open box, one source stuff like that. As you've come along and you've played all these different RPGs, what would you say is your current favorite one to play?
Well, my favorite one to play just for fun is gotta be Paranoia.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. I'm feeling what you're putting down there.
It's
Okay.
Paranoia is great short term. You
Uh-huh.
do not want to do that long term because it gets old really fast. But for just a filler, or you need like 3 or 4 sessions of some filler, good Paranoia game is amazing
Mm-hmm.
because it's leads to nothing but hilarity. I highly recommend. There was a live stream. You can find it on YouTube now. It's got Felicia Day, Matt Mercer, Will Wheaton, and a bunch of others that they play Paranoia, and it's hilarious. If you want a good example
Oh,
of
yeah.
how to play Paranoia, check that out.
Maybe we'll have to run one.
It's definitely funny. My favorite long term, I definitely like D&D 5th edition,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very, but I also like Pathfinder, and I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are worried about Pathfinder being kind of overbearing, but
Crunchy.
Yes, Pathfinder 2nd edition is actually really good as well.
Mhm.
Except the character creation. I hate the character creation. The new Pathfinder, and I know my my LGS friend would groan because he loves Pathfinder 2nd edition. And I love the world of Pathfinder, but yeah, it's great.
That's a I think Pathfinder. I actually got a hold of the Pathfinder playtest for 2nd edition book. We have the giant thick book for that before they actually released official 2nd edition.
Yeah,
There was a lot of feedback on that, and then they had released the printable errata to change some of that stuff, and I think they did a really good job getting that feedback and putting it to use almost immediately. We have a question from chat.
Shoot.
Who's your favorite player character so far that isn't your own? That's a good question, isn't it? For a DM especially.
That is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love a lot of I ran the Descent into Avernus game, and that was a really good game. We had some great characters in that. I also run a Wild Mount campaign on the side, just for a couple of friends of mine, and they've got a great dichotomy as well. And it's tough. It's like picking children. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be like, oh, I like this one better, but they all kind of work together. That's a tough call. Yes, Queen Karen says mine. That's my wife there.
The paladin that
paladin.
lops off heads. Yes.
The head lopping
Pick your
paladin.
favorite child is
Yeah, pick my favorite child.
That's brilliant.
That's a tough call. I mean, I've had wacky wizards, gnome wizards that act like crazy people and don't pick the typical spells that most wizards should, and it leads to hilarity. I've got an artificer armorer who is so hard to hit with my bad guys. I cannot hit them, and I can't fault him. He put together a great character that's like just. We've got a monk Aarakocra that's just the wizard. Will anytime they go into combat, the first thing the wizard does is haste the Aarakocra monk, and they act like time stands still. That Quicksilver kind of scene with in X-Men. There, he's like, "Hey, guess what time it is? No, not again. We just had a fight." Zaps him with the haste. That's funny.
Oh, that's always awesome when you can pull that off.
Haste
and slow are some of the best spells in D&D for buffing yourself or reducing an enemy, especially giants. Haste against giants and slow or haste on your friends and slow on your enemies is fantastic. We have another question. What is your favorite D&D class? It's a joke. When are you going to make your character for my game? From Sage Saga. So apparently one of your friends in chat is giving you harassment.
Yeah, Sage is a good friend of mine. He's been with me the whole time through I had a podcast a long time ago where we talked about geek culture. He was around He was there for the RPG out of the box, and he's here now. He's putting together like this epic game where you can basically make anything, you can bring anything to your character. You just have to have it on your sheet. If it's not on your sheet, you don't have it. It's like an epic level, like 20th level game characters, and it's going to be epic. My favorite class, I would have to say, I like, when I was younger, I would play the typical stuff: fighter, rogue, the stuff that's, all the memes are about. Now I try to play things like, if I'm not, I try to play things out of the box. I think out of the box when it comes to new characters. So, I've tried warlocks. I'm in the short shot. I'm playing a blind fighter.
That's actually a pretty cool character.
I'm trying to I try to take something and see if I can make it new. I take this boring class. Everybody says, "Oh, fighters are boring. Fighters are boring."
I don't think so.
What makes them boring? If you're not putting the effort in, then of course they're going to be boring. You've got to.
There's just so many opportunities to role play the action as a fighter. Where is the panache? Where's the skill? Where's the athletics that comes in with that attack, right?
And you don't have to be just a grunty human fighter. You can be somebody that has a personality, a comedian fighter, just everything. Everybody grab my pole.
Phrasing. Yeah. One of your co-stars on the stream is in there, and he's mentioning a phrase that came out. Everyone grab my pole. That's right.
That comes out tomorrow on YouTube, right?
It should drop tomorrow on YouTube.
Nice.
So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, by the way, please definitely subscribe to our YouTube. You'll see the link, I think, in chat shortly, if it's not already there. And you'll be able to see the premieres of each and every one of our Twitch streams on a regular basis. So that, you actually, there was some great phrasing moments in there, I think, as well.
That's what D&D is, or any role-playing game. It's the moments. It's the character moments. Me as a DM, some of the best stuff is when I can just sit back and not say a word, and the players just build off each other. They start talking. It just thrills the hell out of me when they get into that.
Yeah. What's your favorite RPG to run?
I really, when I was younger, I had Aliens, the adventure game, and based off the movie Aliens. And that was my favorite to run. It was an awful system, but I had a lot of fun with the guys that I played with. Nowadays, I like Shadowrun, but it's awful. I like Shadowrun, but the 6th edition is awful. It's just not
really
great. Yeah, it's the way I like old Shadowrun. That's a good question. I've dabbled a little in the new Alien RPG put out by free publish. What's the? I can't think of the company name, but they put out an Alien RPG. It's really good and really in depth. It's got like this stress system so that it builds and makes dice rolls harder. You know what's my favorite though? 10 Candles.
10
Have
Candles.
You played it?
Oh, in the dark? Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just so thematic.
You run that? You actually ran 10 Candles?
I've run 10 Candles for some of my friends, and it was a blast.
I think that's a game that is, until you've played it, you really can't understand how spooky the game starts to get at the end.
Yeah. It's a great system. It's simplistic. You don't need to know tons of rules. It's all just storytelling, and everybody helps make this great creepy story. Kids on Bikes is a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
If you ever played that? I love like 80s. I'm being a child of the 80s. I love a lot of 80s movies, culture. So I love Kids on Bikes. It's very, I keep using thematic. I gotta come up with a different word.
Oh man, it's great. I mean,
It's-
theming is part of the games though too, you know.
It really is.
With all these things, you know, what's an RPG that you've not played or run that you would if you could and you had the time?
Alien. The
Alien?
the new Alien RPG. They just came out with an adventure called Destroyer of Worlds.
Mhm.
With it's a marine based, you know, the Colonial Marines,
Mhm.
and they're coming out with a Colonial Marines source book. I believe this summer or fall, I'm not sure, but soon. I'd really like to play. I like to play it,
Mhm.
but the problem being a GM, you want to play something, and everyone's like, "Great, when are you running it?"
Yeah. They're like, no. That was you're doing it. I'll
You
loan you the
want it.
book, please.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Chad, if you can find a link for this RPG and give it to us in chat, we'd be very interested in seeing that. I'm very excited to hear about this Aliens RPG. I know I'm going to look it up now that you brought it up.
Free League Publishing. That's
Free
the
League
company.
Publishing.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, my friend Guy Critique, his monk in our first box set on RPG Out of the Box. He was doing the element monk, and
Mhm.
he was trying to put together the avatar, and
Mhm.
it was his first time ever playing. He'd never played D&D. He jumped. I said, "Hey, I need a spot filled." He was there, and he filled in, and he did great. Him and his wife joined us, and yeah, they did really well. They'd never played D&D before, but
Oh
they had a
man,
great time on stream. They did perfect.
that's
He's
always
a
awesome
voice
when that happens.
actor.
Oh
He's got
yeah, yeah.
he's got his own IMDb, so
Okay.
he's
Okay.
met like some of the Critical Role cast and all that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, he's a great guy.
So, what inspired you after you've been playing all these games to decide, you know, I think I'm going to become a streamer. I'm gonna go on camera because you know it's a completely different level. I mean, once you're actually doing it, like we are, you know, and you go forward and you start actually putting all this stuff together. You know, so a lot of people just decide, you know, this is really hard work. Other people just love it, and you're one of those guys who loved it, right?
It's funny because I also have to balance being a dad,
Mhm.
but it takes a lot of work. Everybody says they watch like Critical Role or some of the others, and they're like, I want to do that. That looks easy and fun. Well, it's fun, but it ain't easy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work. You have to hustle to get every streaming session out there. You got to build the audience. You got to
Mhm.
keep them
Mhm.
coming back. So you can't just be like, I think this is a good stopping point. You gotta leave it on a cliffhanger and be like, you got to give people a reason to go, I got to come back and see what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Just like Sage says, like most jobs. Um, it's you've got to know, you got to be in it,
Mhm.
and it I could see this being an 8-hour a day job.
Well, for some, I mean, I can see that very easily happening, especially if you're streaming like that level every day. I know that Matt Mercer puts in about 6 hours before as prep for his dungeon mastering for every show.
Yeah,
You
but
know, at least 6 hours.
he doesn't have to do quite the hustle for the social media
Oh yeah,
and
he's got a
building.
team doing all that. Yeah,
I
so
mean, they've got,
focus on his craft, you know. And
yeah.
but you're also not just I mean, when you said, hey, let's go on camera, let's stream, you weren't doing that from an idea of, I'm a goofy gamer and I think people like my games too. Which isn't necessarily bad because there's people who are very successful doing that because they're very entertaining. But you also have a bit of a drama background, don't you?
Yeah, I've done stage acting,
Mm-hmm.
um dinner theater, live theater, dinner singing theater. I mean, I'm not as good as the singer, mostly on for when you're singing up on stage at karaoke. But
Mm-hmm.
I've done dinner theater and live stage theater for a while in Syracuse before I moved out here. I haven't done it out here, so it's that itch I need to scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I love, and I know this terrifies some of my introverted friends. I love going out on stage in front of a full packed audience. You
Mhm.
know, it could be 10 people, it could be 10,000 people. It would have the same level of thrill for me.
Mhm.
It doesn't scare me at all.
Mhm.
So I love to entertain people. And I think that's what drives me to want to do this, not because it's going to make me big and famous. And maybe someday Matt Mercer will be like, hey, Matt, why don't you come on and play with us? No, that's not going to happen. But I love to be able to entertain people. Even if I don't make a dime out of this,
Yeah.
it's fun. I have fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as a person who's done a fair bit of performing myself, and although I think you've actually done more than I have, professionally anyway, or semi-pro, we'll call it. And I did some stand-up way back in the day, and a lot of
Stand up's
improv too.
tough.
Stand-up is hard as hell, but
I
actually we have a guy, Joe, who does it a lot more than, I mean, he's doing it currently. Well, I don't know about right now, but he's done a lot more of it than I did. I was doing it back in my late 20s in Chicago, and I was doing a lot of stuff with Second City and
Oh,
going to
wow.
their clinics. I wasn't on Second City. I was just in
Oh,
their
okay. I
clinics
was
and
like,
stuff like that.
wow, a lot of
Yeah,
people.
no. But like those guys are spot on. Like when you're working with some of those guys and you see these guys who are literally like, they're so hot, like in terms of how they work and stuff like that. It's like being in the room with a comet, you know? But the exciting part, I think, for me is I got over that fear, just like you probably did at some point. Cause like when you first go on stage, no one automatically just goes on
Oh,
stage and
no.
goes, they love me. It's you have to figure out that nobody there wants to see you fail. Even the hecklers don't want to see you
I,
fail. They nobody says, I'm going to pay a lot of money and go see something crappy.
right.
Right.
I'm not, the comedy thing,
Mhm.
stand-up comedy, that's another level. Because for me, what I do is I shut the fourth wall,
Mhm.
and I don't see those people out there. I can hear them, and subconsciously they register, but I'm in the moment. It's like press and play on a movie and watching it go. I'm doing my lines, even
Mhm.
if something happens. Example, I was supposed to have this fight with a guy. He was supposed to step on the vacuum cleaner and it was going to shut the house lights off, and we were having a fight in the dark,
Mhm.
and he goes to step on the vacuum and it doesn't turn on, so it can't blow the fuse, so the house lights didn't come off. And there's that moment of terror that grips you. And I look at it more like shifting gears on a manual
Mhm.
transmission.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, let's shift gears, go into third, and
You
let's
can't find
start
them,
fighting.
grind
Yep,
them.
yep. Can't find them, grind them, and let's find a gear that works and start going. And yeah, and we pulled it off, and the crowd went wild. It was great.
That's
So
that's awesome when you can pull that off.
yeah, but stand up, you're standing there, and it's just you and the crowd, and you're
And the
talking
crowd's the
to
crowd's
them.
interactive in a lot of cases
Yes,
too. Yeah. Oh
I've
yeah.
seen
And
hecklers.
sometimes more than you wish. Yeah. And I think in the streaming's case, because you get, especially in like this particular show, which has a lot of chat interaction. And by the way, chat, we love you. Big hearts to all of you.
I
You're the
do love you,
best.
chat. You
Yeah.
guys are the
So
greatest.
we heart you. Um, the thing I will tell you is that, with chat, and at least here you have rules in stand up, that people will say whatever they want, and
Yeah.
they can be very hostile in some cases, especially after they've had a couple in them, but a couple drinks anyway. But overall, I think my experience was, nobody really wants to pay a cover charge, or nobody really wants to spend their quality time watching something that sucks. So they're there rooting for you, even if you're having a hard time,
Hmm.
and they know you're having a hard time. Most of the people are actually sympathetic and are trying to, cheer you on regardless. And what's one of the great things about the Twitch community is, the people there are mostly there to support you. And Luke Thomas, you can heckle all you want, but be prepared for what the return volley might look like for
The
everybody.
band hammer.
And Takashi Silver says he loves us too, or he or she loves us too.
Takashi, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. So all the loves all the time, my friend. I get switching gears a little bit.
Sure.
You're kind of a reader too, right?
Yeah, I don't read as much as I used to.
Hmm.
I loved reading when I was in high school, and
Hmm.
I've read a lot of the classics. Big fan of the Dragonlance series.
Is there like a book you've read more than once, or you come back to it repeatedly for inspiration?
I read the first three Dragonlance books
Hmm.
multiple times. Uh, I have the annotated edition where it has all three of them put together in one huge book with all the Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman comments in it.
Hmm.
I've actually met both of them in person, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Tracy is a funny guy. Margaret Weiss is this very straight-laced woman. You could tell he's the funny guy, and she's the straight person,
Oh
basically.
yeah. Yeah.
And together they write just these great stories.
Hmm.
And I'm super excited that they're coming out with a new trilogy
Yeah.
after so many
Yeah.
years. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
That is the part that's kind of everybody's kind of like waiting, just waiting for it to drop. So I'm kind of excited about it myself. I think we talked about some of that not that long ago. I think a few episodes back on the Games Tavern Happy Hour. So it'll be cool to see when those drop.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I met Michael Stackpole.
Hmm.
He's the guy that wrote the X-Wing series.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's written a bunch of other series, and I told him, I was interested in writing, and he said, well, if I can give you any kind of advice, don't write in your own universe, or don't write in somebody else's universe. Write your
Yeah.
own. Which is funny coming from the
Mhm.
guy that wrote the X-Wing series, and
Well, he's got to check through everything,
yep.
right? He's got to do a ton of research. I mean, we have the same challenge when we do stuff
Yes,
in Forgotten
BattleTech.
Realms for our streams too, because as the dungeon master, one of the things that we try not to do on stream is do any of the pre-published adventures that other people are running, because what we
Hmm.
don't want to do is show on stream something that would change or be different from their adventure. We want their adventure to be theirs, right?
Hmm.
So we coexist in their world without breaking their adventures. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. And then we reference things that occur in the background sometimes with that.
Yeah. And one thing, so when I was trying to grow the Chaotic Night Network, and
Hmm.
I was like, you know, I was talking to this guy that ran his own channel,
Hmm.
and he's big, he's got a big presence on social media, and I said, what am I doing? What can I do to build an audience faster? Because I was
Hmm.
hungry, I wanted more, I wanted,
Absolutely.
and he said, what's different about you than any of the other streaming shows? And it was funny because I started out right away by saying, well, we've got a diverse cast of, varying types of people playing in of representation, playing in D&D. And the way I was saying it, I could literally hear myself saying, so what's different about that? Because everybody else has the
Hmm.
same thing. Oh, they all have a diverse cast of representative group of people, and it's very samey.
Hmm.
So that if you want to go into streaming, you gotta set yourself apart.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And sometimes just setting yourself apart is as simple as being consistent too. That's
Yes,
that's the other tough thing for a lot of folks. But yeah, definitely got to do something different.
you have to be consistent. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What as a player or as a dungeon master, what were some early mistakes you think you learned from that changed? Was there any aha moments or moments where you went, ooh, I DM'd myself into a corner?
Yeah. So one of the bigger mistakes that I made was I actually DM'd, and I almost TPK'd, and I broke a group that had been together for a long time, almost 10 years. We had been together for
Hmm.
10 years, and I was like, oh, I want to try my hand at DMing, and I DM'd. I think the fractures were already there, but when
Hmm.
railroading your players, not giving them enough, if you try to railroad them to where you want to go, but you also have to do it subtly, because the problem is they were like, we feel like we're being railroaded. We don't want to, we want to, okay, fine. And then the problem is when you give them too much freedom, they were going right for the big bad guy layer that they weren't ready for, but they had figured out the mystery, and they were going there. Oh, we're going to go out to this old cave and go down there. And there was way above their level. And it almost killed them all. And then they were like, we're done with this. So you have to read your players. You have to know, you have to give them, sounds awful, but you're peeking behind the DM screen. You have to give them the illusion of choice, even if you're not giving them a choice. It's okay to move the big bad guy layer and put something else there in its place. Oh, we figured it out. It's at this old cave. Well, the big bad guy moved and he set up a trap, and it's only a few thugs that are there that, you have to play the balancing game. You have to spin many plates as a DM, and so you have to like figure out what's best for your players. What are they having fun? No? Okay, well, you need to don't be such a rigid GM or DM that you think this is it. My story is great. Don't screw with my story.
Right.
Because
it's their story too, right?
Right.
Yeah. I found
that doesn't mean
making that mistake myself.
Yeah. Don't give them carte blanche, because that's not fun either. Nobody likes a Monty Hall adventure, and I'm dating myself because most people are like, who the hell's Monty Hall?
Oh, well, I mean, that term is not really used anymore in D&D, although it should be, because it's a very real term. Yeah.
It really is.
Of all the projects you've worked on so far, what would you say is your most popular or most successful one that you've enjoyed?
Well, I would say the short shots that I'm, because that's my current right now project. So that's okay. Well, I mean, that's what I'm on. So I have to give that my all, because that's, at least that's in the public eye. My favorite that I'm doing right now is my Wild Mount campaign that I'm running for my friends on the side, not streamed, not, although it should be, because there's some wacky stuff that goes on that I think would be great. But these guys are all introverted guys, and they would never want to stream it, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. They're having fun, and it makes me happy that they're having fun. It's that entertainer in me, that I love to entertain. So if I get my joy out of somebody else having joy of what I'm giving to them, the story that I'm giving to them.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also good to also have some games that you don't do on stream too. I mean, that keeps it loose when it needs to be loose.
It's so much. Yeah. It's when I was doing RPG out of the box, it's so tense because I project, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm trying to, and you're paying attention to the viewer numbers. Oh, tonight we only had 3 viewers. What the hell was I doing wrong? And, whereas if it's just a side game on the side for fun, I don't have to pay attention to any of that. Just, did you guys have fun? We had fun. Great. I've made Twitch partner, privately. I didn't have to get 75, average viewers per set. Geez. So.
Oh, don't think it's impossiple. It's very possible.
Yeah, but it's a big hill to climb. But yes.
Well, positivity. We've got the right gear and the right people. So, is there a game you've played that I mean, like there's some games I've played that I've just really said, this game is amazing. And when people ask me about certain types of games, is there a game, any kind of game you want, any tabletop game at all? Doesn't have to be an RPG. It can be though.
I played.
Is there one you would recommend above all others?
I played for the first time. I played Nemesis. Have you seen that game?
No, I don't think I have. But I'm going to look it up now.
It's like Alien, the first Alien, but it's, obviously they couldn't get the license for it, but it's a really cool game. It's basically you're on this ship, you've come out of hypersleep, something's gone wrong with the ship to wake you up, and you and your crew have to figure out what happened. So somebody says, well, I'm going to go up to the bridge, to take a look. Somebody says, I'm going to go to engineering, and everybody has their own objectives, secret objectives that you could want the ship to get to where it's got to go. You could want to get off the ship, blow it up, and make sure you've got an alien egg with you to take back to the company, So it's a really good game. It's
I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's like $120.
Probably worth it if you're that excited about it.
But the models are really beautiful, very generic-y looking, like aliens, but it's done really well. It's a lot of fun, and the backstabbing is hilarious.
Oh, that's the most important part. I'm always here for the stabbing. We're gonna switch gears a little bit, I think, and shift to something a little more interesting as a player or as a person in real life. You remember back in the early 90s or late 90s, the what's your ASL? Yeah. Yes. Well, we're going to do this a little bit different. What's your ABC? Your alignment, background, and class. What's your real life alignment, background, and class? What would it be?
My alignment is the same thing. It usually is all my character alignments. It's chaotic good, hands down. Chaotic good.
Okay.
I played a character. He was a monk, and he was chaotic good. And I know you can't do chaotic for monks, but he was chaotic. So, and his way of answering anybody saying, "Why did you do that?" was balance. He followed the way of balance. And he would say that, which was basically just me saying, I do what I want, so and it led to some funny moments, because from that phrase, I took the gold that we had gotten and I bought land and I started a school and I started a complete different way. It was called the Way of Balance. And it was hilarious. It was in the Pathfinder system. So, yes.
So your alignment would be chaotic good. What about your background and class?
Background, personally, real life? I would have to say entertainer would be
your background.
Would be my background of for myself. I love to entertain. And my class would have to be, I want to say bard or rogue, but not with a thief type slant, more like the talker slant, the face of the group.
Sounds like a bard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you could be a rogue with good FaceTime, that just also happens to play a small instrument here and there, sure.
And like I said, you don't have to be what the book says you are. You're not,
play
if you're a rogue, right? You could be an archaeologist. Indiana Jones was a rogue, I mean, you just, that's however you spin
with the archaeologist background.
Yes. Didn't they just add that? That was in was that in Tasha's book? Just
the archaeologist background has been around for a while. It's not in Tasha's. It's been around. I think it's actually in it's Eberron. Xanathar's.
Or maybe
Xanathar's. Yeah. We can find out. Hold on. I'll tell you. We have the ability.
Nice.
But while we're doing that, if your character walked into a curio shop, what trinket would they find?
I always like odd things like what?
That chat just figured out it was from Tomb of Annihilation. That's what.
Tomb of Annihilation. Yep.
So what curio would you find? Sorry about that. I interrupted.
I like things like a key that has no lock, or a map that has no, reference of where it's to. Something like that. I love.
A true mystery of mysteries.
Yep. I love to be able to go, oh, I might need this someday, and putting it away, and then just like, we got this lock, we can't. Now's the time.
And it might work.
It doesn't work.
It's so crazy, it might just work. Yep,
right.
Nope, you're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that is great.
What was the name of your favorite tavern in a game?
um, we we had this tavern. It was in, I think it's in Faerun, and Sage could probably help me out with this, but it's something like the Come On In or something like that. And I was playing with this guy, and when the DM said that, it just the guy hates puns, and when he did that, it just melted this guy's brain, and we laughed our asses off. So I like any tongue in cheek ins, like the Come On In or the Wayward In, just something that's tongue in cheek that leads to being a pun. Perfect.
I think as a dungeon master, one of the things I enjoy most is outside of those moments where they truly need to be very serious, like when they're fighting the evil big bad guy and there's hostages involved or something like that. That's the serious moment. But when they're doing the what is it, the anything else, I think that when a player can get a zinger in that makes me laugh as the DM and lose character for a moment, that is spectacular. I mean, I think my biggest moment of that, I think you guys did a couple different things. You said, like, everyone grabbed my pole, and I just kind of started to lose it, like phrasing.
Damn it.
Yeah. But I think it's always awesome when the players challenge the DM with, can he keep a straight face when we do some of the ridiculous crap that we do, are you the same way? Is that what works that way?
Oh yeah. You? If the players break down and I'm just like, when I don't see it coming, that's the perfect, the perfect moment. It's like, oh, that hurts so bad.
What is not starting in a tavern the way you would have characters start up?
I like things like your moments that thrust you into the action. You're in jail and there's a prison riot, or you're being shoved into an arena with a bunch of other people, and are expected to fight. You're on a slaver ship. You don't have anything. You've got to build up from nothing. Back when I was younger, and you're like, oh, I have all these things that I brought, and all this gear. The gear is nothing. It's about the story, and right, I'll start a game with nothing, no money, no weapons, just maybe the clothes on my back, and that's it. And that's all I need is to get going with an adventure. So, I like things that put you in a situation where, you're thrust into some sort of sudden action. It's a good start to even a movie. You wanna like grip them right away. Like, oh, this is serious. And the bar fight is kind of a twist on that, but overdone. So
yeah, the bar fight, bringing people together through brutality. You're all naked in a swamp came from chat, and that's always great. That's really starting from nothing.
He says that, but what's funny is that was one of my worst D&D games that I had ever been in. Really? I started in a swamp. So I was at a local LGS back when I was much younger, and I was like, hey, can I join? And they were like, sure, we've been playing for a while, but here, make your character. And so I made a character, which is no small task. I mean, it takes an hour and a half to make a character, especially in second edition. And I was captured by lizard people and in pens, and the party was going through the swamp on a raft, and they come up to the area. They set us free. The lizard people were distracted, so they were off. They set us free. All the other people ran, all the NPCs ran, and I came out and I was like, I want to go with you guys. And they go and they get it back on their boat. You can hear the lizard people coming. The guy's like, you've got 1 hit point. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can work with that. I was like, I want to come with you guys. And the ranger was like, no. I'm
what?
like, it gets worse. So I was like, please, they're coming. I've been held prisoner for so long. I need to escape. I can't live with these like this any longer. I go to get on, and he pulls out his bow and arrow, and he takes it and he points it at me. He's like, if you touch this boat, I will kill you. I was like, I got it. And he's like, they're coming right up on you. And I'm like, I got to get on the boat. And I touch the boat. He shoots me. I'm dead.
That's not a game, man. That's a jerk face. Okay.
Yep.
Well, he kind of missed the point of playing the game. So.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Wow. Power play. Well, I'm glad we don't do that around here.
It's very rare that something like that happens. But if it does, if I can tell Chad anything, it's don't let that discourage you.
Yeah.
Don't, you're going to get a bad game, and that's fine. Just use it as experience. Mm-hmm. Let it roll off your back. Move on to the next one. Find a group that you will, love to play adventures with.
Absolutely. And that's great advice. Is, don't let that first bad game steer you away. Keep coming back. Trust me. There's plenty of fun out there to be had.
Yeah.
Before we break off, because we're getting close to the end of our night tonight, where can people find you on social media right now?
So I'm primarily on the Twitter.
Twitter.
I like to call it the Twitters. But I'm on Twitter at Matt Fellman, just like here on the chat. Yep. And yeah, I'm on there. I post a lot of talk about TTRPGs. I'm pretty heavy in the TTRPG community on there. I like posting memes. I post, interesting thoughts and twists on TTRPGs. I'm there for advice. I've had people DM me on the side and just say, how do I do this, or how do I get into that? And my DMs are always open. So if you want, and I always try to follow people that have something to do with TTRPG. So if you follow me and you're like, I'm into TTRPG as well, I'll follow you back. I'm definitely I'll follow you. If you're following me, I'll follow you, unless you've got no bio, or you're obviously a Russian bot. I won't follow that, but yeah. So
those interested, Matt is on our Saturday short shot Dark Days in Mole Master, a three shot series, and will be appearing in other things upcoming and to be announced later. Is there anything else you want to hype, Matt, that you're working on, or anything like that?
No, just watch the Games Tavern. Watch their shows. I've got some great stuff. I've been really loving it. I've been watching stuff while I'm working during the day, and I'm really impressed, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
All right.
I've had a lot of fun. And to people out there, if you guys, don't hesitate to reach out and ask, if you need help. I've got a ton of resources that I pull from for DMing, especially with all the digital DMing on virtual tabletops nowadays. There's so many resources out there to get battle maps, story plot hooks, everything. You just got to look for it.
And we even produce those on our Patreon for the Games Tavern as well. So there's a DM level Patreon
support that Patreon
tier, blah 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 blah. Yeah, that tier is a great way to get access to battle maps. We're building plugin encounters to drop in right now. Perfect. And then after we get enough of them, we'll put together a book. And we're doing all sorts of cool stuff with that. And I love people who create plugin encounters, because as a DM, it's like pulling from a toolbox. Like,
yes.
Yeah. I mean,
because you've got to fill in. Okay, so your players just finished this adventure hook. They're level 3. The next adventure hook that you've got is like level 5 or 6 to 8, and you're like, well, how the hell am I going to fill level 3, 4, and get them to 5 to start that next one? Plot hooks. Just these different little just mini adventures, but you weave them into the story so that they're it almost seems seamless, like what you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, Matt, I'm excited to have you on the team. I'm excited to get to talk to you and find out a lot more about you and your background. This is kind of the first time we've had a really good long talk about that,
Yeah.
outside of that first initial conversation. Like, hey, you want to do this? Yeah, let's get on stream. Yeah, let's. Okay, you're not going to do the following, are you? Talking about the no stuff and all that. But I really, excited to have you on board, and I can't wait to talk to you again at length, possibly on the happy hour again.
I'm always up
and
for it.
Definitely excited to see you playing games for a change, as opposed to being the forever DM.
Yes.
So,
be wary of being a DM, because you will fall down that DM forever DM hole.
Oh, it's not necessarily a hole. I like being a DM too. But hey, guys, for those of you who Sage Saga, free me.
He's a forever DM.
Yeah. For those of you interested, we are also looking for additional people for several new show concepts that we're building out. Switching over to a brief commercial for a moment. If you're not on the Games Tavern Discord, please definitely join the Games Tavern Discord and check out the casting call channel. Not everybody gets a chance to get on, but that doesn't mean we won't talk to you and we won't give you either good advice or possibly bring you on board and put you on a short shot like we did with Matt and quite a few other people, some of whom never streamed before. So, and they're knocking it out of the park like champs. So
gotta start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere, and it's a great way to do things. And you're not starting alone. You have a lot of people that are supporting you and helping you and doing all sorts of other stuff. But if you're a game master, or if you're a performing player and you want to try to check out what streaming is like, give us a holler, check us out. And then also check us out on social media. Say hi. We definitely want to talk to you there too. And with that, I think the final thing I want to mention is Tabletop Audio. Big thanks to them for the background music and ambiance in all of our shows. And with that, we'll close out for the night. Say goodbye, Matt.
Goodbye, Matt.
I knew you'd do that. I just knew. Take care, everybody.
Have a good one. Thank you for showing up.